All right, everybody. Hello. Welcome. I believe I'm streaming live right now. Let me just check. Pardon me. I'll probably be coughing a little bit here and there. My name is Chris. This is Comic Tropes, and every once in a while I like to do a live stream, just an opportunity to check in with everybody and talk comics. And it was pretty important to do now because I've been very, very sick for a little while. And more than a little while, actually. Geez, I've kind of lost track of how long it's been. It's got to be something like 3 weeks at least now. And it's good to see so many people in the stream, in the chat, I should say. I've been out of the hospital for a few days. Still recovering. Yeah, I got hit by the COVID. Not sure if saying that demonetizes me or anything, but best to just be honest, I guess. And anyway, obviously my energy level a little lower than usual. I'm pretty fatigued most of the day, but I've been wanting to do a live stream. I don't quite have the energy to put together an actual episode right now. Hopefully pretty soon. But I've been sick for a while. I was admitted to the hospital for about a week, and that was tough. I was very tough, but I've been out now for about a week. My numbers are good in terms of my oxygen level is good these days. I'm breathing deeply enough. My pulse is pretty normal. This just takes a lot out of you, I will say that. And it was very, very serious for me. After talking to, the doctors and when I was in the hospital, basically if I had not gone to the hospital on the day that I did, I probably would have died. I was very, very close. And I'm okay now, but that's still very scary to know. And I was really close, people. Like, I was really close. And it's still scary just to think that I was that close. Yeah, I was close to suffocating. I just was not breathing. And once I was in the hospital, and, they had me on various infusions and steroids and all sorts of stuff that help. My heartbeat was really bad. It was in the 30s. That is not good. My heartbeat was consistently in the 30s at night, and just my body was having a hard time getting past it. So anyway, shouldn't really be scared though, because I'm here, so that's fantastic. I'm glad I'm here. I really am. I don't want to die. I've got a lot of stuff that I still want to do with Comic Tropes. There's a lot that I want to say about comics and share. But it was really, really bad. I'm slowly getting better. I'm just very, very tired, but I'm excited right now for this opportunity to just be able to sit down and draw and chat with everyone. I'm seeing a lot of really wonderful comments there. It means a lot to me. It sincerely does. Water. Just having water here and there. And so yeah, we've had a lot of really entertaining stuff to watch lately. Just focusing a little bit on some of the positive. And I think anybody that's sort of watched my show for a while knows that I'm a pretty big fan of Godzilla. I'm also a big fan of King Kong. And they recently had, of course, this Godzilla versus Kong movie, and it's goofy AF, but I'll tell you something. I loved it. I had a great time. That came at a time where I just needed some sort of mindless entertainment. It was actually pretty tough to focus on at times just because of my energy level, but I liked it. I really had fun. It definitely, it turns the brain off. It's all about just getting to the big action scenes, but they're done well. let's see. I'll take some questions in a little while. I'll just be, just sort of doodling here tonight and taking questions, and hopefully we can have some fun together. But yeah, I would recommend Godzilla vs. Kong. I would say that it's one of the better ones in this sort of monsterverse that they've made. I also have seen a bunch of other stuff lately. Not a bunch, but a few things. I've been enjoying the Falcon and Winter Soldier show, but what I've really been enjoying, and I'll give this like a really strong recommendation, is Invincible. I really think that the Amazon Prime animated adaptation of Invincible has been so strong. I think it's made some improvements over the original comic here and there. Not in massive ways. I really like that comic. I'm biased. A lot of you know that I'm pals with Kirkman, and that invents a bias in my review of Invincible. And just to be 100% clear, I proofread the comic from beginning to end, so I'm biased about Invincible. My friends like Corey and Ryan drew it. My friends Benito and Nate did some spin-offs. My friend Chemo worked in that world. I'm biased, but I really like the show, and I'll tell you why I like the show is the one knock I could potentially give to the comic book is sometimes a lot of the voices from different characters could sound a little bit same, which I think is a challenge for any writer of a comic book. It's one writer at the end of the day trying to write multiple voices. And one advantage that TV shows can have, not always, but they can have, is the advantage of a writer's room, which gives multiple perspectives and can often help give a more well-rounded appearance to characters. It can give them dialogue that sounds different from each other, come up with like subtle character personality traits that make them feel like a more well-rounded three-dimensional character. And I do think that the Invincible TV show has an improvement there. I think that Invincible himself, his girlfriend, some of the teen team, a lot of improvements. I just missed a super chat. Hold on 2 seconds. Let me just see what that said. Thank you so much, Squango Productions. Possibilities on an episode about Sean Gordon Murphy? Quite possible, yes. I admire Sean Gordon Murphy's art quite a bit, so that's definitely a possibility. And then look at this. From faraway, vast reaches of Canada, Torinato Dean says, glad to see you're out of the hospital and on the mend. I hope your recovery is restful. That's pretty much all it is. I am not getting a lot accomplished day to day. A big goal for me has been things like, today I will take a shower. And that is all I get done. And the first day that was my goal, that was like, I didn't get it done until like 9 p.m. I just like the whole day, I was just trying to get the energy together to take a shower. It took me until 9 p.m. Anyway. But so I've really been enjoying Invincible. I give that a very strong recommendation. I don't know what's not to like about it. It's really cool. And if you haven't read the comics yet, I'll just say that you're going to be in for some surprises. It's a superhero show that in many ways like plays on the tropes of what you would expect out of a comic. It can get a lot darker than a Superman comic, a lot darker, or a Spider-Man or something. It starts with that sort of a world and mythology, other superheroes, a connected, shared universe full of superheroes and villains and aliens and stuff like that. But it will subvert your expectations. So, strongly recommend that. It's on Amazon Prime. And I believe that Amazon Prime just launched sort of a promotion like today or yesterday where you can read the first 3 trade paperbacks on Amazon digitally. So if you haven't read it, there's a pretty easy way to give it a shot. No big out-of-pocket expense there. So yeah, that's been that's been something I've been able to enjoy lately. That Falcon and Winter Soldier, Kong versus Godzilla, or Godzilla versus Kong, which is it? I think the original 60s version was Kong versus Godzilla, and this one is Godzilla versus Kong. Not that that means anything, but at least it's slightly different. Tac Tac Customs with a super chat. Thank you, first of all. That means a lot to me. Some comic recommendations. Radiant Black, Noctera, and Ultra Mega are my favorite comic in ages. All Image Comics. Yes. Those are some very strong recommendations, and Ultra Mega with art by James Herron is pretty dope. I like his art a lot. And then Noctera is a comic that really wowed me. So much amazing world building, but the reason I care about it is they came up with a character with a family hook that pushes her out of her comfort zone and makes me care about everything. So Noctera is definitely pretty exciting and pretty special. I'm also excited to try out Beta Ray Bill that just came out from well, Marvel, but like, you know, by artist and writer Daniel Warren Johnson, who of course wasn't that long ago that I made an episode talking about how I think he's one of the most exciting new creators out there today. So I'm very excited to see that. I've been too sick to get to the comic book store. Daniel Carhoonan, my collaborator on his great comic Loxor, is here and asks, have I watched the Tintin animated show? No, I haven't. I am not even 100% sure what year that came out or anything, but I do like Tintin, and I definitely plan on at some point talking about Hergé. Too important a creator to ignore. So definitely we'll have to figure that out at some point, like the animated series that you're talking about. That would be cool. Glad you're home and doing better. Thank you. It means a lot. Yeah, the colors on Noctera are great, and I'm sure that that's a challenge actually for a colorist because it's constantly sort of playing with a world without sunlight. So you have to definitely deal with purely artificial light all the time. Think about it. That would be a real challenge to coming up with a color palette for a comic. Wow, Linnea Glasser, your insight inspires me daily. That means a lot. It really does. Thank you so much for the kind words. Oh, I am wiped. But it feels good to be doing this. It's just been so long since I've been able to connect with anybody aside from like a little bit of tweeting. I really hope if you haven't got this disease that you don't. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. I've been sick with some serious things here and there in the past. I'm sure we all have. One of the toughest was mono. Mono was a pretty tough one to go through. But, you know, I didn't think it was going to kill me. It was just very, very painful and uncomfortable. Another one was like vertigo I once had for like a solid week. That was incapacitating, horrible. This is worse. This is worse than anything I've gone through. Josh does things with his super chat. This is appreciated. Thank you. So glad you're back home. Please make sure to get some proper rest and take care of yourself. Great artwork, by the way. Cheers. Well, I promise. I'm really not doing much of anything, folks. I really am just resting because that's almost all I can do. And I know that it's what I need to do. I want to get back to normal and get to work. I like working. I like feeling useful. But I know that I can't yet. So I really am focusing on myself. This is taking some effort, but it's good. It's good to connect, you know. I mean, that gives me some energy too. Ben Howell, thank you also for the super chat. I'm glad you're alive. Me too. It really has made me realize, you know, I don't have a death wish or anything. I really want to live, and I think I could see myself now just forcing myself to find a way to put the money together to hire an artist and make a comic. You know, I've come close in the past to having some, you know, mainstream publicly released comics, but they haven't happened, and you know, things fall apart. That's okay, but the idea of like being gone and not having something to leave behind is really disturbing to me. So I've been giving some work to like some comic scripts that I've been sitting on, and I could see myself doing that pretty soon, hiring somebody to draw it. Obviously I like to draw, but I'm kind of slow. I don't think I can draw quite what I want to see out of my scripts. So anyway, that's something that might be happening soon. Have I thought about doing crowdfunding? I don't think I'd necessarily need to, but yes, I have thought about it. I think what I would do for some of these comics is I would pay an artist to do several pages, first of all. Just, you know, pay them for their work for hire. Once I have 5 or 6 pages, that's, you know, all you really need to pitch. And maybe I could pitch to places like Image or Vault or wherever. You know, like lots of great publishers out there these days. If they pick it up, fantastic, we're in shape. If for some reason they passed on my idea, I think that I could still, I think then I could look into crowdfunding. I think I've got a pretty amazing support base. So looks like my stream is going a little slow. I'm sorry. Let me see. Just checking. It says that my stream is kind of poor. I hope everybody can see it okay. I did not realize that it should improve. I've got this hooked directly to my internet, like it's not Wi-Fi. Not much I can do about it other than hope for an improvement in the signal strength. Yeah, thank you all for the kind words there. That's really nice. I think that I've got several ideas for some comic stories, and the one I sort of lean towards doing first is I've had a werewolf story for a while that I think I'd like to do. A horror comic, but I feel like werewolves are cool, but there's not that many good werewolf stories out there. I don't think there's that many, and I think I've got one that's unique and very like sort of simple, to the point, and could really be effective. I think that could be a lot of fun to try to do. I've got some other sort of like superhero and sci-fi ideas too, but right now that's the one that's hooking my interest the most. So we'll see, you know. Just sort of talking about what could come next from Chris. But don't worry, my priority is definitely still to make comic tropes episodes. There's no plans for that to go anywhere. I just need to heal up and get some energy so that I can really give it my all. The next one that I'll be doing, I'll just you know, sort of tell you a little bit, is I'm going to talk about comics about making comics. Oh, look at that, a super chat. Here's to good health. I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. Whew. Sorry, every once in a while I have to sort of just focus on catching my breath. It's weird, but whatever. But hey, I've been talking about like what I've been enjoying watching with, like, you know, all the superhero stuff and that. Oh, you know what I haven't caught yet? I haven't been able to sit down and watch the animated Pacific Rim show that is on Netflix. I've heard that it's pretty good, so I should make some time for that, I guess. Has anybody been able to take some time to see that? Do you have an email to send art? Well, the email that I put at the end of every episode, Mike, comictropes@gmail.com. Let's see. Kong should have some kind of rough features here and there, so gotta rough him up here and there. It's fun to draw hair. You could really get lost in just sort of doing tons of strands forever. Oops. I smudged a little bit. Fortunately, I have my rubber eraser, so let's see if we can... Yep, fortunately that is able to be mostly cleaned up. That's good. Am I talking too lightly? My voice, I feel like it's stronger than it was, but I know I'm not projecting the same way I used to be able to. Oh. What else? By the way, I'll just say this. I'm not asking for any donations tonight, but obviously several people have. And I'll tell you, right now, that's actually been super useful. A few friends have given me some donations too. Normally I don't ask for stuff like that, but I'm so exhausted that cooking right now is just sort of like, you might as well ask me to climb Mount Everest. It's that level of intimidating, the idea of cooking. And so I've actually been using donations for things like delivery, Uber Eats or Grubhub, and I've never really been a guy that uses that stuff because it's a little expensive, you know, to add the tips and everything and the delivery charges, but it has been a godsend. Oh my God, like that has really like kept me alive, is being able to order delivery. I don't know how much any of you guys do any of that, but what a helpful thing that has been. And just to think that, like, you know, 5-10 years ago it wasn't even a thing really. No, I didn't hear about Netflix making a Kong Skull Island anime. I'd potentially be interested. No, I don't know the Blood Rain comics. Sorry, no, don't know that one. What else? Yeah, I haven't been able to hit the comic store lately, so there's a bunch of comics that I want to read that I haven't really been able to yet. One of the ones I'm really curious about is by James Sticco. He did Orphan and the Five Beasts, maybe it's called. That one looks quite interesting and compelling. And there's a little tie because he, of course, did some great Godzilla comics. Isn't it interesting right now seeing like all these sort of kaiju type properties, things like James Herron's Super Mega. There's Giga over at, I want to say, Scout or maybe Vault. I'm sorry that I can't remember. Feel like there's others that I'm not thinking of right now, but like all of a sudden it seems like there's a lot of interest in sort of kaiju type big stuff. Did I have a lot of hospital bills? I don't think so. I'm pretty sure my insurance is gonna take good care of me there. I'm pretty sure. I don't know yet. It's kind of early. Am I a little nervous? Yes. But you know what? When it comes to being this sick, you'll pay whatever it is to stay alive. That's what I realized. Because if I didn't go, I would have been dead. Any cartoonist kayfabers here? Yeah, I don't know if Jim or Ed is here, I don't think, but hopefully some of you guys viewing this are also people that have watched their show. I think the Cartoonist Kayfabe is definitely a really interesting show. It's different than mine, you know. They do it daily, and they just sort of sit down and break down a comic. But it's interesting hearing two different professional comic book artists break down not just techniques, but intention and goals. So that is a good show. Quite a good show. Grape Ape versus King Kong. Who wins? Grape Ape, of course. Grape Ape. Yeah, we talked a lot about the Invincible show at the beginning, Gabriel. Good. A lot of people here watch Cartoonist Kayfabe. I'm encouraged to hear that. I think it's quite a good show. I think that there's a lot of good comic book content on YouTube. There really is. Matt Draper is another guy that always impresses me. But if I go down this rabbit hole of just like listing shows, I'm inevitably going to sort of forget someone, and I'll feel bad that I neglected to mention them. So I'm going to actually probably just stop, and happy to give opinions on shows if I've seen them, but I don't want to feel like I'm ignoring somebody. Oh, thanks for watching my shows, Lowell. I appreciate that. That means a lot. There's a lot of stuff that I want to cover on comic tropes. So hopefully, I can get my energy back pretty soon and start cranking some content out for all of you. That would mean a lot to me. It really is something that I want to be doing. So a bunch of like foreign comics that I really, really want to talk about and haven't really been able to put together yet, but I'd love to talk about. I've got the original Witcher comics from Poland that a friend of mine there helped me translate. I think that would be interesting to discuss. I also would love to talk about Corto Maltese by Hugo Pratt, an amazing Italian artist. I don't think that Italian comics get discussed nearly enough on comic book YouTube channels. So those are some of the things that I definitely intend to do soon. Oh wow, another super chat. Thank you, McKinney, BL McKinney. Wishing you the best on your recovery. Let me catch my breath. I'm okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for the super chat. That's very, very generous of you. You need more Lady Cop. There was only the one issue. Sorry. No more. Gave you all I could on that one. It's pretty soon I'm going to move into this sort of second panel. Not that this is specifically for anything. I just sort of decided to lay it out like panels instead of a pinup. Pinups are cool. Pinups can help you with your art, but they're not the same as trying to convey a story, are they? It's a very different set of skills. Favorite David Lynch movie? Oh, that's an interesting question. Favorite David Lynch movie? I do like David Lynch quite a bit. Probably Blue Velvet. It just probably creates the deepest emotions in me. So that's. Am I sick? Well, very sick. Yes, very, very, very sick. I'm improving, but yes, just to be clear, I am still suffering from COVID. So if my voice sounds kind of weak or something, that is why. But I wanted to take some time to reconnect with everybody and let them know that I am still here and that I'm thinking of you guys. Do you think a small spin-off comic run with the original Human Torch and Submariner would be cool? That all depends on the creative team, but sure. Of course. Oh, Eraserhead. What was I thinking? You know what? I move Eraserhead to my favorite Lynch movie. For some reason, it was eluding me. That movie freaks me out. That movie is as scary as anything out there for me. Yeah, let me change my answer to Eraserhead. I really like it. Favorite Coen Brothers movie? You know, I really admire the Coen Brothers. I wouldn't call myself much of an expert when it comes to their stuff. I think I've seen a lot, but definitely not everything. So I don't know that I'm an expert enough to have a favorite. But I did really like their reimagining of True Grit, actually, which doesn't necessarily seem like 100% indicative of who they are, but I really did like that. They did No Country for Old Men, right? I think I'd choose that. What's on the TV? Just some royalty-free synthwave. I don't know if I've got it too low or too loud. I just sort of wanted some background music for both myself and for everybody out there. So this was a tough decision here on this panel that I'm inking now. Is I really made an intentional decision to just put Godzilla in silhouette, because I'm going to have him powering up, and I thought that like the only way to do that accurately, really, to show this accurately, would be to have him almost entirely in silhouette. I love getting into the details of Godzilla, but you know what? I've done that before, and I thought that this would be a more interesting way to represent this panel. So I'm going to take my time and sort of black this stuff out. Yeah. Wow, let's see, another super chat. Any chance you'll ever do anything on the fan polarizing career of Frank Robbins? I would not say no, but I'll be honest. I don't know much about Frank Robbins. I don't know why he's fan polarizing, so I'd have to look into that. I wouldn't say that there's anything that I've ever considered off limits for what I would cover on Comic Tropes, as long as I've got a take on it that I feel is adding value to the world. So the short answer is I'd have to read up on Frank Robbins. I'm not familiar. Miller's Crossing or Inside Llewellyn Davis? Okay, I'll keep those both in mind. Thank you, LS. I appreciate the recommendation. Recommendations are definitely how I feel like I find all the best stuff in life. Listening to other people and giving something a shot. Kong is looking good. Thank you. I wanted to make him fierce and angry, and I felt like he needed a really low angle to truly show that. But then instantly, like in this next panel, we see Godzilla just dominating on top of him. You know, one of the things I really liked is in Godzilla vs. Kong, and I'm not going to spoil anything with my comments, but there's a fight, you can see it in the trailers, that takes place in Hong Kong, and it's all lit up in neon. And if you haven't been there, you might think, okay, that seems a little over the top, you know, that seems like a bit much. And they did saturate the color, but I'll tell you, that's real. I've been to Hong Kong several times, and one of the most beautiful things about it is they do an evening show where all the buildings light up, a symphony of lights. It is very pretty. The best place to see it is across Victoria Harbor from Kowloon, looking at the island, and it is just, it's special, it's gorgeous, and it's really cool to see such modern architecture, all that stuff like lit up with maybe not all neon, but like really bright, gorgeous lights. It was a very innovative idea to to set it there, and because it seems over the top and everything, but it's real. Like that's a real look, and it's really cool. Favorite public domain superhero? Jeez, I don't know. I've covered a lot of them over the years. Just answering Chrissy. She's asking if I fed the cat. The answer is yes. Here, you know what? Give me 2 seconds, because yeah, I have some photos of Hong Kong that I could pull up. I don't know. They probably won't show up that great on camera here, but here's one from Victoria's Peak, and all the sort of neon stuff is over here by the bay. But you can sort of get a sense of how bright it is there. Here's one that I took from Tsim Sha Tsui across the bay. You can see how bright it is. There's another. Hopefully you get like a small idea of just how bright and special it is. It's really, really cool. Thank you, Tim. I'm glad that I'm well enough to chat with all of you too. It means a lot to me. Boy, that's a pretty broad question. Steven asks, how do I feel about copyright law? I mean, I think it's something that's kind of necessary to protect some creators' rights, but I think it also has been abused by companies to overextend their claims. Disney. Well, we shall see. I don't know that it may be over the top copyright law, because trademarks can still protect a version of an intellectual property, which I think is fair. But copyright is weird. Some food? Oh, thank you. That's really appreciated. Thank you very much. Chrissy brought me some small oranges. That's good. Oh, it's very good. It's interesting seeing other countries, how they react to copyright law. Japan is much looser. They do have copyright laws, but they allow fan publications as well. Because I guess they sort of feel that like that could be the next generation of talent, and so you want to like give the like just a little bit of looseness there, a little bit of freedom to create some of the fan comics. It's interesting. Marvel and DC and places like that over here just really couldn't allow that, because if you don't enforce your copyright, you can be shown to have legally abandoned it. But they're much looser over in Japan, and you get some interesting work, and it does lead to the next generation of talent. No, I haven't covered Kingdom Come, and it is something I would like to cover someday. Definitely an important comic. Sorry, I'm looking for a certain pen. Give me a moment. There we go. Yeah, I've read a little bit of Chip Zdarsky's work, and I'm always impressed. One of the things I was really impressed with was Spider-Man Life Story. It's Spider-Man, so it feels weird saying this, but I think it was a little under the radar. It was a really interesting take on Spider-Man, both showing him growing through the decades and having each issue represent that decade of Spider-Man on a meta level, because like it would talk about like what his biggest sort of storyline or enemy or something was, and I really admired it. I have not played the Sega Shinobi games. I didn't know that. Yeah, a lot of people seem to have appreciated Life Story. It was something interesting. Or my favorite Godzilla design. That's an interesting question. I would say, probably, um, probably the Heisei era has my favorite Godzilla designs. But I can find something to appreciate out of all of them. Like, there's every era has something I like. Yeah, I love to draw. Don't know how good I am, but I love to draw. All-Star Superman. Yeah, I haven't done that, have I? All-Star Superman is probably my favorite overall Superman comic. It was quite special. A lot to recommend about it. I should do that sometime soon because I really like Frank Quitely as an artist, and that would be kind of fun to talk about. I would say, as far as Godzilla designs, I just saw people are still sort of talking about that a little. The one design I did not really care for was that 1998 American version. That just wasn't Godzilla to me. It was just sort of a big Tyrannosaurus Rex. It felt more like they wanted to do a riff on Jurassic Park as compared to Godzilla. Didn't really work for me. Will I cover Masamune Shiro? I already did. I did an episode several years ago about Ghost in the Shell. Not like there's a reason why I wouldn't continue to discuss him, but I mostly said what I have to say about him. Yeah, Godzilla in Hell is pretty cool. Does a comic remaining unfinished bother you? If it's a comic that I was liking, then yeah, it bothers me a lot. I would have loved to have seen the full story of Big Numbers by Alan Moore and Bill Sienkiewicz. That drives me nuts that book will never be completed. Fortunately, most of the stuff that doesn't get finished is not that important. I didn't read Jeff Johns' Superman. Not against it, but personally, I've yet to really connect and enjoy with much of the stuff by Jeff Johns, with the exception of his early work on JSA. That was kind of passionate. There was some good ideas in there, but yeah, not a big fan of Jeff Johns, unfortunately. I know that he's very popular, and I guess you just can't like everything, It just doesn't work for me. Who team you on, Godzilla or Kong? Well, I love them both, but I probably do like King Kong just a little bit more for some reason. Which is weird, because I've obviously seen a lot more Godzilla stuff. I'm a huge Godzilla fan. You could say I'm a Godzilla stan. I'm about to sort of cheat and take a break from inking for just a second because I really want to add some dynamic color here. I did not see the Batman vs. TMNT animated movie, but I saw the trailer. It looked very fun. Here. Let's see what happens if we can charge the big G up here a little bit. How many of you have been vaccinated at this point? I'm curious. Godzilla versus Gorgo? I would say Godzilla. Yeah, I think that looks kind of cool, giving him just that little bit of blue. Oh, good. A bunch of people have gotten at least their first shot, and I'm seeing some that got their second already. I'll just tell you, folks, you don't want this. If you can get your shot, get it as soon as possible. Trust me, you do not want this, no matter what. Like, you just don't. I'm glad to hear so many of you have already gotten it. This is great. That's great news. That's really positive to hear. Gamera. Gamera's kind of underrated. There's a lot to like about Gamera. He's a friend to children everywhere. When I go to Japan, I always like to visit Akihabara, which is just sort of like a nerdy section of, well, we'll call it a shopper's paradise, basically. And it's got a lot of toys and video games and comics and stuff like that. And the gachapon that I have always picked up. In this one store, there's always been this humongous statue of Gamera that's so cool. And I'm not even that into Gamera, but every time I go, I'm like, that's pretty cool. It's humongous. And it's super expensive. I would never get it, but it's very fun to look at. And it's always been there. Like, it's been like across 5 years. Have you heard the story of Phoenix Jones? I know the story of Phoenix Jones pretty well. I used to hang out with him quite a bit. So yeah, I know pretty much everything about Phoenix Jones. Trust me, someday I think maybe I should make a comic book about my time when I was foolishly dressing up as a superhero and patrolling the city with him, but I don't know. We definitely saw a lot of excitement. It was weird. Wow. Thank you, Craig. I appreciate that. That's really nice of you. Yeah, Japan is actually really polite about wearing masks if people think that they're feeling even slightly under the weather. They've always been really good about that. It's not like there's no cultural taboo against wearing a mask. It's just considered polite, just something that you would, just to be on the safe side for. And it's been interesting seeing how differently America reacted to the idea of like, oh, we should wear these. Because I've been going to Asia for a while, and it's just never been a big deal to wear a mask. It's not that much of an imposition. What was my street costume? Yeah, I might make a story about my basically year of fighting crime in costume. I was called Omega, and my suit was basically a motorcycle jacket with armored pads that I covered in like a red satin. It's like a black, almost Batman-esque sort of segmented muscle suit with like, I had like a red Omega symbol that I spray painted on there. An airsoft mask. No, I don't think realistically Batman could beat Superman unless Superman let him. But you can do anything in comics. Like, if I want to have Batman beat Superman, all I have to do is have him properly prepare. He's got a kryptonite ring. Boom, done. He wins. But other than that, I mean, like, say you took just an average guy and you made him fight, like, whoever the top heavyweight MMA champion is. Who's going to win? The stronger guy. Could the weaker guy just come up in a grocery store behind like an unprepared MMA fighter and beat him? Yeah. So I guess anything's possible. Yeah, that's me in the ESPN documentary about Phoenix Jones. That was right towards the very end of my career. I don't think I come off looking that great, but that's okay. I didn't really care as much at that point. When I started patrolling with Phoenix, I had just moved out here to the Seattle area, and I didn't know anybody except Phoenix, because I'd interviewed him like about a year before I moved out. He was like one of the only people I knew, and so I started hanging out with him. And at that time, I had been taking Krav Maga for a few years, and I would work out about 2 hours a day. I always did the Insanity workout every day at lunch in my company gym, every day for 2 years. And then I also, at night, had a personal trainer at the gym. So I was in a lot better shape, and I felt very comfortable with my skill level at that point. And so I was like, well, I've got a skill set that's fairly reasonable, and dressed up and went out and broke up fights and reunited people that had been lost and administered first aid to people that got hurt, did all sorts of things that were helpful. It was just sort of, I sort of got caught up in the idea that dressing up as a costume was going to get like a lot more publicity and like maybe help people be better to each other. I thought that it was a possibility, but over time I sort of got disillusioned and realized that, in my opinion, everybody else was just trying to get attention and get in fights potentially. Like, it's like, I won't back down from a fight, but I really didn't have a lot of interest in starting a fight or anything like that. I just never have. So I got pretty disillusioned, and a year was enough for me. But yeah, I enjoyed WandaVision a lot. I thought that they did some really cool stuff. Definitely kept me guessing. And Falcon and Winter Soldier is good. It's not hooking me quite the same way, actually. It's a little more generic, but it's okay. It's pretty good. I'm happy to watch it. Thanks for listening to me blab about all sorts of random things. TV, my silly superhero career, drawing. Anybody else out there drawing anything these days? Having fun? Or writing? How is Phoenix as a person? He's very charismatic. He's very charismatic. He's very goal-oriented at times. He's in very impressive physical shape. He really is. He's very gifted. But he's also, his personal life was always chaotic. You know, his place was always messy. He was always moving. He was always in different relationships. I don't mean any of that as a bad thing per se, but it's not the healthiest person to be around long term. He's kind of unpredictable. I don't think he's a bad person or anything. I'm not trying to say anything along those lines. But you asked, like, what's he like? And he's chaotic. I think he has a hard time keeping everything balanced in his life. I think he has challenges there. I think he needs somebody that can really help him, give him a set of organizational skills would just really change his life so much. A lot of people are talking about writing and drawing. Good. I love hearing this. Trying to draw 3 times a week. Good. Yes, you got to exercise those muscles. Exactly. Oh, wow. Hold on. A super chat. Whoa, another super chat from Linnea. What kinds of video games do you enjoy? That's a fun question. Thank you. First of all, I haven't really been playing any video games in quite a while. I've just been too busy and then too sick. But the stuff that I like the most are either first-person shooters. I've really enjoyed, things like Halo and Titanfall and Call of Duty in the past. And if I have the time, I really like all those Lego games. I just always go for 100% on all of them. It's kind of funny how obsessive I can get with the Lego games, but I really enjoy those. Data science project. Well, good. Just keep busy, right? I write for DCUO, so lots of writing all the time. Good. Keep those muscles going. Waiting for Lego Star Wars later in the year. Yes, I'm very much looking forward to that. What is your comic you want to make about? I've got lots of comic book ideas. Lots of ideas. Are there any good horror movies that anyone has watched recently? I would love to hear an answer to that question from L.S. Krieger, because I do love horror movies. I really do. I feel like I haven't really seen one lately. I don't think I've, aside from like Godzilla vs. Kong, I haven't seen any real movies lately. But to be fair, I've mostly been resting. I haven't really been doing a lot of anything lately. And that's just the way it should be. To recover. Good that you write your own stories and characters, Nexus. I think that while writing certain superheroes is all good and fine, The stuff we're gonna all be passionate about is the stuff that we create ourselves, isn't it? I think so. Oh yeah, I remember The Eye. Cabin in the Woods, that was good. Do you think American comics will ever reach the variety and genre that Japanese manga has? Well, I think we do have that variety. I just don't think we necessarily have the same level of popularity across the genres. And so that's a slightly different question. I think it would take a long time for the American industry to adjust enough to have the appetite for such divergent genres as, like, sports comics and more romance comics and stuff like that. I think that it's going to be a while of I think sci-fi is sort of making a bit of a growth step. I think that there are more crime comics coming out these days that are good. So there's hints of growth in terms of what kind of genres people are hungry for, but it's taking a while. Jordan with a super nice chat saying, really happy to see you back and doing better. Thanks for the countless hours of entertainment. Well, that's my pleasure. That's my pleasure to provide any entertainment or anything. That means a lot to me. I love the medium of comics. I think it's got so much potential, and anything I can do to sort of help expand people's appreciation of the medium and specific stories really helps me feel better. I would consider doing an episode on Something is Killing the Children. That's a book that I read, and is it's good. It's arguably underrated. Boy, I'll tell you, Copics, just relaxing. They just flow so smoothly. They're just so nice. I wish they weren't so expensive. They are fun, though. I have not played Ghost of Tsushima. It's good, huh? Do an episode on the Max? I've definitely considered that many times. I like the work of Sam Keith quite a bit, and it's always interesting to take a look at an artist who kind of intentionally takes a step back. And another one I'd love to talk about sometime would be Bill Watterson of Calvin and Hobbes. Sam Keith, of course, is still putting out a comic these days, a Batman Max comic, so that's cool to have him still with us, actively making comics. But there's no question that at some point while doing the Max, he just, made an intentional decision to peace out for a while. And that's always interesting to see somebody make that as an intentional decision. JoJo Part 6's anime adaptation was announced yesterday. Thoughts? I've only read the first 2 books of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and it's obviously a very big story, so I'm not super up to date and ready to talk about JoJo yet as any sort of authority. I still need to read quite a bit more. I will say I find the story fascinating. The artwork seems to be improving. I'm not a huge fan of the artwork. I'm really not. I don't hate it, but I don't really find it very appealing. I find it fairly ugly. But we shall see, Give it some time. Obviously, there's something about the story that appeals to people since it's been going on for so long. And that fascinates me. When something fascinates people for that long, there's something there. Whether I'm going to ultimately get it or not, to be decided, but obviously there's something there worth exploring. So, yeah, JoJo's fascinates me on that level. Whenever I go to Japan, I try to make an episode about comic tropes, like based on an important manga from Japan. So who knows? Maybe it'll be JoJo, or maybe it'll be Berserk or something. But I'm sure that by next spring I'll be back in Japan, just because I like it there so much, and we'll do another episode about an important manga. Or maybe I'll do something like Slam Dunk or Vagabond. There's a lot of interesting comics out there. Favorite Daredevil story? Well, I think it has to be Born Again. I think Born Again was, that's my favorite. And if not that, just in general, like, Frank Miller's entire run, I really feel like he defined who Daredevil is for me. Now, I've heard a lot of good things about some of the more recent runs by guys like Mark Waid and Chip Zdarsky and stuff, and I need to check those out. But I'm not as up to date on the modern Daredevil stuff. But I've gone back and reread the Frank Miller stuff a bunch of times, and it just never really disappoints. I really love it. Calvin and Hobbes exhibit at the Billy Ireland Museum is calling my name. That sounds nice. That sounds very cool. Tips for traveling cheap? Plan ahead. Be willing to consider Airbnb. I've done that before. Usually I would rather splurge, I think, for the comfort. Be willing to get your own food from, convenience stores and stuff here and there. And just plan ahead. I think that's all it is just planning ahead so that you can, go on a tour yourself on a bus instead of like paying a tour agency or something like that. All right, let's jump back to doing some real inking instead of just sort of spotting stuff. No, I never saw the G.G. Allen comic. Would Born Again be a good intro to Daredevil? Yeah. It's a standalone, like, trade paperback you can get. Absolutely. Favorite Darwin Cook comic? It's between New Frontier and The Hunted. One of those two. Rumiko Takahashi, huh? Well, keep that in mind. I wouldn't say that I'm overly familiar with her work. Am I right in thinking that that's Ranma 1/2? Is that what it's called? I think I'm getting that right, but I'm not 100% sure. What type of music do you listen to? Pop, alternative. At this point, I'm getting older, so I still listen to a lot of hits from the 80s and 90s. Try to turn on the radio and talk to my younger coworkers about what's good these days so that I'm not totally out of the loop, but yeah. Good questions. I appreciate it. How long have we been going? Oh, only an hour. That's not bad. I can keep going. I'm having a good time. I hope that's it's hard. My energy level's low, so I feel like I'm not necessarily showing how appreciative I am, but I really am having a good time being able to do this and chat with all of you. It means a lot. What's the most wholesome comic you've ever read? Probably something along the lines of like Blankets by Craig Thompson. Probably. Mark Bagley or Alan Davis? If you're asking me which artist I like more, I'm definitely going to go with Alan Davis. I really admire Alan Davis's work a lot. That would definitely be somebody I'd love to make a detailed episode on. If you need a break, go ahead. Oh, I know. I definitely would. It's pretty easy for me to just turn this off if I need to. But I'm having a good time so far, so thank you. Welcome back, sir. Well, thank you, Jesse. Oh, wow, a bunch of people jumping in. Hey, man, you probably get a lot of suggestions for comics, but still think you should give the Cité Obscure, Bruxelles, big Euro comics fan here. All right, I will keep that in mind. Hope recovery is going well. Well, it's going well enough for me to be doing this, right? It's going well enough for me to be doing a live stream, which I consider a big deal. Like this is the most that I've attempted in a long time to do anything. So yeah, there's definitely some improvement, and just trying to force myself to do a little bit more each day, but not do too much. It's a balance. Have you seen the MTV Spider-Man series? Yeah, I remember that. That was with Neil Patrick Harris and Lisa Loeb, right? That was pretty good. I've had people ask me to do an episode on Cyber 6 a lot. Maybe. Should I try to get my comic published by Image, or should I self-published? It's whatever you want, Larry. That's a tough question. It depends on an individual's goals. I think there are definite advantages to being able to get a publisher to help you out. They have a lot of apparatus for distribution, maybe a little bit of promotion. At the very least, you can network. But I also don't think that there's less barriers to entry, I would say, these days, if you want to try to make your own comic. And I think that's exciting. I think that's really exciting. Did you read the TMNT The Last Ronin? I have been reading that, and it's really cool. It's really cool. I'm a pretty big fan of Ninja Turtles. They hit me at the right time, you know. When I was just discovering comics, like really discovering it, that was basically the mid 80s, and Ninja Turtles was something very new when I first started going to the comic book stores. And I'm glad I discovered it. And I'll always have like sort of a sentimental attachment to those characters. I really do. What character are you most excited to see in the new Suicide Squad movie other than King Shark? Oh, okay, because King Shark's cool. Out of like the new characters that they're introducing, I'll say Polka Dot Man, just because that's a pretty obscure pull, and he seems to, be in the movie a bunch. I think that like a lot of the characters are going to get wiped out on an initial mission. I'm positive like, half the cast is going to be gone, and that's part of what Suicide Squad is. Oh, the Snyder Cut. That's something we haven't really talked about tonight, but yes, I did see it. I have thoughts. I would say, first of all, overall I liked it. And I wasn't expecting to like it, so let me make that clear. I have not really enjoyed Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman. Too dark. Didn't connect with it. Wasn't really for me. That is not to say that I dislike Zack Snyder as a director. I think that I enjoyed 300. I enjoyed what did he do before that? Excuse me. Dawn of the Dead. It's really good. And I'm not generally for remakes, but Dawn of the Dead was great. And I even liked a lot of Watchmen, although I do think he fundamentally missed what it was about. I thought it was an interesting take. I didn't like Justice League when it came out in theaters. It didn't work for me. It was muddled tonally. It wasn't a very interesting villain or story for in my opinion. And I think that the what else do I want to say? The special effects even were, I thought, pretty bad. Like it felt rushed for such a big budget movie. I didn't care for it. So when the extended, Snyder Cut came out, I wouldn't say that my anticipation was high. Hold on one second. Nick, thank you for such an amazing super chat. Really nice art. Love your streams. Loved your Vampirella recording. Very, very kind of you, Nick. Very, very kind. That's incredibly generous, and I'll tell you something. Obviously, a lot of people have been generous tonight, but that money will sincerely go to my current recovery, because Chrissy got sick too, by the way. My fiance got sick too. She only just got out of the hospital yesterday, but she's getting better, and we're just too exhausted to cook really right now. So we will be using this money for some delivery of some sort, and that means a lot right now. That sounds lazy or something, maybe. I don't know. It's not our usual style, but right now it's what we need to do, and it helps a lot. So thank you. Sincerely, thank you. But anyway, let's go back. Thoughts on the Snyder Cut. I just wanted to preface that I wasn't necessarily excited about it, right? And overall, I thought it was a pretty good movie. I think that's saying a lot. I think saying pretty good movie is very, very fair, and that's a compliment. I would give it somewhere around a B if I was grading it. And I think that's pretty good, because I sincerely probably would have given the theatrical cut, at best, a C-. At best. I did not think that was a very good movie. This really was a almost completely new movie. The plot is the same at the core, but everything makes so much more sense. Every character has something important to do, has a reason to be there for the story, and has a character arc and some growth. That makes me care about them. Even the villain, Steppenwolf, first of all, not a great villain. Not a great villain. He's not much of anything. He's a henchman in the comics. He's not much of an interesting henchman either. Almost every other new god or from Apocalypse is more interesting. Granny Goodness might have made a more interesting villain, because maybe then you have the Furies and Barda scot-free, something like that. That would be interesting. Desaad is sinister and insidious. Steppenwolf is just a big, tough guy. He does look better in this. I'll give him that. And finally, he has a little more motivation. You know, he's trying to redeem himself. He wants to be appreciated by his family. Okay, that's more relatable than just, I'm coming to Earth to conquer it. That's more interesting that he's got a reason to do things. So yeah, like, and that's already clearing up so many problems when now we can understand each character's motivations. Sounds like really boring stuff. No, you need it to make it work. You really do. And so now the movie, like anything that they do, no matter how wild they go, well, I'm a little more invested because there's a reason for everything. It's not just stuff happening. Everything's predicated on actual goals and desires. So yeah, I was very surprised at how much different footage there was, even though the story is the same. Like, so much different footage. And the special effects are a lot better. A lot better. The special effects in the theatrical release were, like, honestly just bad. After this, you know, anything else I'm saying would really just be breaking down the plot, I think. And I don't necessarily feel like I need to spoil it. But if you're someone that was, like, on the edge of being like, should I really invest my time in something like this? Well, I would say yes. I would surprisingly enough say it probably is worth your time. It's not a perfect movie. It's significantly better than what it was. Significantly. It really is almost a completely different movie in all the ways that matter. Character, special effects, pacing, tone. The tone is consistent. And it's not that dour. It's not as dour as Batman vs. Superman. It's serious. More serious than, say, the average Marvel movie. That's okay. That's okay. It's good. It's worth watching until it ends, and then it keeps going. It is stunning how bad all of a sudden the last scene is. Like, actually, the last two scenes. And I won't spoil it, but it's completely unnecessary. Barely connects to the movie that we've just seen. All it is doing is setting up where things would probably have gone if DC was 100% committed to Zack Snyder's vision. And yeah, that's interesting to see. But it's pointless. It is just... And you're done. You've seen the movie. You've seen the hero's triumph. And then all of a sudden you still have like 30 minutes of movie that is just pointless and a waste of time. And it really... I mean, imagine watching a whole movie that you're like, hey, pretty good. And then all of a sudden, just nonsense. Just total garbage on top of that. It won't end. And you're like, it's so wrong-headed, and you could only have done it if the movie was released this way. Like, that would never have made it into the theater. It's funny how bad it is, in my opinion. Like, it's really, really bad. So, people asked my thoughts. I'm appreciative of that, and I think that's about as much as I need to say that's relevant. It's still worth watching. But I'll tell you this. After you see the good guys win, and you'll know when the movie is over, You can literally turn it off, even though you see that there's a lot more runtime. There's a lot. All right. Good night, Wolf Wukong. Thank you for joining. That's very kind of you. Oh, wow. Another super chat. If someone wanted to do artwork for your channel aside from fan art, how would you submit artwork for your reference consideration? Well, you know, that's like a generous idea, but like if I'm not asking for it, I might not really feel like I could use it. So that's like a tough position to sort of put me in. But, you know, anyone that wants to submit things can always submit it to comictropes@gmail.com. That's the show's email address. And I do my best to answer all the emails. If it's just fan art, you know, I just put it into the episode. But if people ask a question, I do my best to try to answer them as much as I can. I'm pretty busy these days, pretty weak. I really am. I'm pretty wiped. But I will always give my best attempt to be respectful and answer any questions or comments that get emailed to me. I always do my best to answer that stuff. But who knows, you know, like, I'm not telling you not to send anything, or anyone out there. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, just understand that I can't promise anything, because I, first of all, don't even know what people would be sending me all the time. But, you know, I might not have a specific use for it, and I just don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, is all. How's my health? My health is improving. It is not great, but you didn't make me feel uncomfortable. I'm just trying to be upfront with everything. I'm just trying to be upfront. I'm not uncomfortable at all. I'm flattered if anyone wants to send me anything to take a look at. I'm flattered. I just don't always have time. People will send me like a full comic or a script or something. I'm sorry, I don't always have time to read something like that and give my thoughts back on it. That would be lovely if I did, but it's not realistic. So that's all. I'm just trying to caution like expectations is all. What should I do here? I think I'm going to go to this pen. This is fun. This is a lot of fun for me. I feel like I can never quite get like what's in my head on paper, like never. But I like drawing. I enjoy it a lot. I find it very relaxing. Halo or Arkham? Those are both good franchises. I've probably had a little more fun with Halo because of multiplayer back in the day with friends. But those Arkham games are solid. Do you think the Rat Pack could succeed the same way The Boys has? I do not think The Boys could be adapted for mainstream audiences back in 2012. I guess I don't understand the comparison between Sinatra and his guys and The Boys, the comic. I mean, I don't quite understand the correlation there, J-Beck. Yeah, I feel like I'm missing something there. Sorry, I just don't understand. As a follow-up to Ellis Grieger's questions, which individual storylines would you like to see for each character's solo film prior to the Avengers-style team-up? I don't know. I think that they did pretty darn well the way they did it, to be honest. Favorite Godzilla movie? Good question. I do like Godzilla a lot. Probably my favorite has become Shin Godzilla. Although the original is definitely way up there for me too. I those are my two top ones, but I like almost all of them in some level. Oh, Brat Pack. Everybody's explaining. He means Brat Pack. That makes so much more sense. Gotcha. I think Brat Pack would be a very tough thing to adapt into another medium like live action. Is it technically doable? Absolutely. Is it that? But there's a business expense here. To adapt something, you need to have an audience for it to make spending the resources worthwhile. I mean, it is business at that point. Would people appreciate such a dark, oppressive story? That's a tough one. I think you'd have to make a lot of concessions to the point where it wouldn't be the same story. That's why sometimes I think comic books are my favorite medium. You can take more chances. You can tell an interesting story. People can appreciate it on that level. And you can still turn a profit where you don't have to make the same concessions that you would for a movie or a TV show or a play where you're involving a bunch of people and spending more resources. So yeah, I think the short answer is no. I don't think you could really adapt Brat Pack and have it be a success in anywhere close to what The Boys does, because The Boys at least has satire going for it, so that makes some of the darkness a lot more palatable. Because we're saying something about something. We're talking in the TV show about capitalism, and that's interesting. Marvels or Kingdom Come? Probably Kingdom Come has a better overall story, I guess. Thoughts on My Hero Academia's recent developments? I don't know if I'm familiar with... I mean, I read the manga, but I don't know, aside from that, if there's been any other developments, and I feel like the manga kind of needs to move forward with some more school training stuff. The whole stuff about all the villains fighting and reorganizing was kind of its place setting, it's stuff that you need to do to move the story forward, but I'm ready to go back to the main characters, and my favorite stuff is them training and learning with the occasional battle with a big threat. But yeah, watching Invincible, you got it. You got it. Dark Knight Returns or Year One? Year One. Year One. God bless Frank Miller for both of them, though. Anybody watch the Frank Miller interview with Robert Kirkman interviewing him for Collider? They put it up on YouTube. It's interesting. It's really just a conversation between two professionals. Obviously, both very successful, but from very different points in time. I found it quite interesting. But then I'm a big fan of both. Tim, thank you so much for the super chat. So happy to see you back to work. Love your work. Yeah, I don't know if I'm quite back to work. I mean, I'd love to be able to make some episodes for you all, but right now it's still like this isn't nothing, but it's a much lower ask to just sort of doodle and chat without any real preparing compared to making an episode. Making an episode takes me a long time. Beyond, of course, reading the comics and doing the research and stuff, I mean, it takes me a long time I write full script for what I'm going to say, and that takes a long time to try to get my thoughts down as accurately as possible. Recording itself maybe takes about an hour, maybe a little more sometimes, but takes generally about an hour once I sit down and hit record Usually takes me an hour to record my thoughts for about a 20-so minute episode. Although that takes a lot of focus because I'm memorizing stuff. I'm trying my best to give a clean presentation, like not stutter or stumble over my words. Obviously, I'm not perfect, but it takes a lot of effort to do that piece, even though it's like relatively not a huge ask time-wise. And then editing takes a long time. It always takes a long time. To do like a 20-some minute episode, easily takes me, I'm trying to think, like probably at least 20 hours to edit. I wish I could draw good, just don't have the time. Well, Claudio, I don't necessarily think I'm that great of an artist, but I like drawing, and I think that the more you do it, the more you can improve those muscles, no matter where you're starting. I think that anybody that, sits down and just flexes those muscles constantly does get better. Everybody does. I really believe that. So the question should really be, do you like drawing? Do you feel like it gives you some pleasure on some level? Because if it does, then it's worth doing. What do I think of Batman White Knight? I think it's pretty interesting. I like the first story in it the best. After that, it's not as intriguing a story, but I'll always be happy to look at it for Sean Gordon Murphy's art. I remember when I read Joe the Barbarian, which he illustrated, and just being like, wow, there's just something about the way this guy draws that really does appeal to me. It's very clean. I love his line work. That's all I can say. I really do like his line work a lot. Preacher TV show or Lock and Key on Netflix? I kind of bailed on both of those. Those are both comics that I really, really liked. And I wouldn't say that, either of them was bad, but I have to admit that, it just didn't hook me. I lost interest in both pretty fast. Maybe someday I'll go back to it out of curiosity, but in the meantime, no, I bailed on both Preacher and Lock and Key adaptations. All I can say is I can't think off the top of my head of an adaptation of a comic that I preferred to the comic. And maybe that makes me sound a little snobby. I've made no bones about how big a fan of comics I am. But usually I prefer the original. Although I'm willing to be convinced on this Invincible. I'm willing to I was saying earlier how I really liked some of the stuff they were doing with both dialogue and character work. So, who knows? What do you think of Elektra Lives Again and Elektra Assassin? Well, they're great. Yeah. Anything with Bill Sienkiewicz and Frank Miller is... I find it hard to believe that there's a way that they could make it bad. They're so talented. I should do an episode really devoted to Bill Sienkiewicz. I talked once about Legion in the New Mutants comics and talked about his artwork quite a bit there, but a career retrospective might be interesting. Or an interview. Oh, wow. Now that I think of that, that really excites me. If I could bend his ear, Bill Sienkiewicz, and talk to him, that would mean a lot to me. I very, very much admire Bill Sienkiewicz, and once or twice at New York Comic Con, I've been able to swing by his table and just sort of watch him draw, which is pretty special. He's definitely somebody that fascinates me. He's got such a unique art style that you don't always get to see across mainstream comics, and I'm very glad that he's been able to do so many mainstream comics. Oh, that's true. The Boys TV show, I even made an argument that it improved on the original. So yeah, there have been adaptations that have improved. Because I did make that argument personally. It's good. An episode on Olivier Coipel. It never say never. I don't know off the top of my head that I can think of exactly what I'd want to say about his work, though. That's not a negative or anything. I just sometimes it's hard to think of what you want to say about work, about somebody's work. Claremont said Sienkiewicz draws subtext. He really comes across as an artist, not just an illustrator. He's got something to say with all of his work. Very, very raw and emotional, but very impressive. What do I have that can work as a straight edge? Let's see if this works. Joe Anderson with a super chat. Let's see. Chris, I love your channel and hope you're doing well. It would be great to see you do a video on my favorite thing is monsters. That's fair. I did do once an episode, year-end best comics, and I included my favorite thing is monsters and talked a little bit about it there. It's, not in depth, but it is a great, great comic. I agree. At this point, I'm into comics 99% for the artwork. I've gone through periods like that. It's hard to say, though. Sometimes I follow creators, and sometimes that's an artist, and sometimes that's a writer. I think you need both to truly tell a story. Would I do an episode on Naruto? I would, but I don't know much about it. I've never read it. What type of paper are you drawing on? Not my favorite paper, but it's good. Just normal, ordinary Strathmore Bristol. Smooth. It's pretty good. My favorite is something called Paris paper, number 24. But I just didn't know where I placed it, so right now I don't have it. Let's jump back up. No, let's black out some of this stuff. I'm gonna try to indicate some buildings here. Need an environment to actually show the effects of what's going on. I think that's something that artists can easily overlook, is the importance of scene setting, especially as it relates to showing the impact of whatever's happening in this story. So bear with me just a moment here as I focus on dropping in some blacks, and then I'll be right back to answer some more questions. I would like to take art lessons from you, Chris. I don't know about that. Teaching is a very impressive skill, and even if I thought that I had something to impart when it comes to drawing, I'm not 100% confident that I would have the skills to teach something like that. I really don't know if that's something within me. I'd have to plan very carefully to try to do something like that. I have taught writing before, and I found it very rewarding. Thoughts on Alan Moore saying that Adam West was the best adaptation of Batman? I could sort of see where he's coming from. I think he's probably trying to just provoke a response to a degree, but he's not necessarily wrong with his opinion there. I think that the Adam West Batman was very fully realized for what it was, and it was very fun, and a lot of people appreciate it, and I get it. I think that there's a lot to like about it. So I don't necessarily know how 100% serious he may have been with that, but it doesn't matter. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. Oh, Ryan Sook. Yes, he's really underrated. He's amazing. Do you read fan-made comics or watch fan films? Not generally. I've not had a lot of great experience with fan films anyway. I don't really care for fan films. That sounds like a huge blanket statement, but I think that there's a lot of crap out there for fan film stuff. Maybe that's just all I've been exposed to. And then I think fan comics I'm more open to. I'm more open to the idea, but I'm sort of like, if you're going to spend all that time and effort, why not do it on an original idea of your own instead of adapting a property that you can't really monetize? Mike the Guy with the super chat. So happy you're feeling better. I don't know what I'd do without comic tropes, but, well, you're so kind. That's really appreciated. And Breakfast of Champions also. Great art. Who is your favorite Godzilla rival? Or kaiju in general? Oh, my favorite Godzilla rival? Probably King Ghidorah. I like Ghidorah a lot. Oh. What else can I do here? I can throw in some more hard lines here. First time I ever saw you winking. Yeah, it's a relaxing pursuit, you know? It's a relaxing pursuit. And it's just something kind of easy to do that gives me time to chat with all of you while I mess around. Sort of turn my brain off a little bit and be doing something visual on screen, but mostly have an excuse to just talk. That's the goal anyway. Oops. Looks like I didn't finish this line. So what have people been reading lately in comics? Doesn't even have to be new, but what have you read lately that you would recommend to others? Thank you for the super chat, Art Sensei. Appreciate it. Boy, I feel like my voice is weak tonight, but doing the best I can. Forgot to type a message. Well, appreciate the super chat. Very much appreciated. You guys have been really, really kind today, both with questions and super chats and stuff like that. It's a fun group of people to interact with. It's a big part of why I like doing live streams. Means a lot to me. Spider-Woman, Silver Surfer Black, Peter Parker Spider-Man, BPRD Plague of Frogs, Morrison's JLA, Vinland Saga, Blood on the Tracks, Brubaker's Captain America, Taskmaster miniseries. Yeah, these are some good stuffs. Good stuffs, people. I appreciate it. Yeah, Beta Ray Bill's waiting for me too. I can't wait to read that one. Yeah, that should be cool. Juggernaut, Kyle Baker's Plastic Man, IDW TMNT, 5 Ghosts, JSA Golden Age, Immortal Hulk, Final Crisis, New 52, Justice League, Silver Age Thor, Wonder Woman Earth 1. Yeah, I liked Wonder Woman Earth 1. Oh, I was thinking of Wonder Woman Dead Earth. I didn't read Earth 1. Is that a dab? U.S. Agent, okay. All sorts of stuff. Wow. Umbrella Academy, Frank Miller Daredevil, nice. Hello, Juan, nice to hear from Brazil. Vagabond, cool. Man and Superman. I never read Man and Superman by Marv Wolfman, but I like Marv Wolfman, so it's cool. Whoops. Gotta focus myself, right? Hunter x Hunter, okay. Superman Peace on Earth. You can see your comment on the screen. Good. Hello, J. Crow. Hello. Let's see. Calvin and Hobbes. Yes. Sorry, I'm almost whispering. I just realized sometimes I get really quiet. You guys are reading a lot of comics. I love it. That's amazing. How about any books? Anybody reading any books these days? I feel like I haven't been reading enough books lately. Maybe that's something I can do now that I'm kind of exhausted all the time, is just take some time to read a book. I find it very important to, absorb a lot of different types of media, because I think you can get locked into too much of the same stuff, and it can really limit your overall perceptions and perspective. Angelic Rider, we were worried. Glad you're alive and kicking. Well, I am sorry to worry people. But honestly, if you were worried, I have to admit, you were right to worry. I know that I was really, really close to dying, and it still freaks me out that I was that close so recently. It's really something to be faced with your mortality in such a harsh light, so suddenly. We try not to think about it too much because it's best not to, but then every once in a while it just stares you right in the face, and it's a lot to take. It's still freaking me out a little bit, so that's probably enough out of me on that. But yeah, if you were worried, you were actually right to be worried. I was close. I was real close. Having a hard time with long prose fiction. Yeah, I can understand that. Non-fiction, mainly comedy. Cool. Lonesome Dove. Cool. In the middle of rereading Dune. Oh, I didn't realize there was a Dune comic that's out. I'm very curious to see what this new Dune movie is like. Dune is a weird, cool, but weird story. And I really don't necessarily know how it can be adapted in a way that would sort of satisfy the mainstream audiences. I just don't know if that's quite doable. But I like Dune, and I'm curious to see what Villeneuve can do with it. I'm very curious. I've liked all of his movies, so I very much admire him as a storyteller. The Dune movie looks epic. Well, it is an epic story. It really, really is. School textbooks, yeah. For the person whose taste hasn't fully come back, have you tried the charred orange home remedy? Fortunately, I did not lose my sense of taste while I've had this, which I'm very grateful for, because just thinking about that, it's like, taste and smell is a sense that we probably don't value enough because we focus so much on sound and visual and stuff, but what a different world it would be for us if we only had texture to guide our senses when we eat. What a huge loss. Chris, I am so pleased that you are not dead. Me too. Me too. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. It's a lot to take in. Heretics of Dune is my favorite book. I've only read the first one. Well, technically I still have it, Hulk. Technically I still have it. I'm still recovering. But I'm not infectious to anyone anymore. So that's good. And I'm definitely past the worst of the symptoms. I can breathe, you know. I'm doing this. This is a lot. Will Kong be in the third panel? I was thinking of maybe having a punch here, but I was also thinking of leaving a lot of sort of blank space here. I think I do have to throw like a punch, like some sort of an uppercut here to have this actually make sense. But yeah. We're glad to have you with us. Take the time you need to recover. I'm trying. We love just hanging out, watching you draw. Congratulations on the engagement. P.S. I'd love to see you discuss Persepolis sometime. That's fair, Aaron. Persepolis is excellent. I really, really admire Persepolis. By the way, very good animated movie adaptation. Very loyal and very artistic. So Persepolis, I love non-fiction comics, and I love autobiographical comics, and I love comics that teach us about other parts of the world and culture that we're not always exposed to in such an intimate way. So Persepolis is definitely a book that I really love. In a somewhat similar vein, I really admire and recommend the comics of Guy Delisle, starting with Pyongyang. Guy Delisle is a Canadian, and at the time of Pyongyang, he supervised an animation studio, a French-Canadian animation studio. And they actually outsourced some of their animation to a North Korean animation studio. Yeah, North Korea actually does do a little bit of animation. And that's interesting, of course, to get to see behind such a guarded country. You know, he went, once he finished his time there, he came home and made a comic about his life living and working in North Korea. To see a Westerner's perspective of that is pretty valuable. Quite an interesting book. Maybe that derails it a little bit from Persepolis, which deserves plenty of discussion in its own right, but it just got me thinking, and I had to go down that tangent, and I really, really recommend reading that book. It's top-notch. Top-notch. What would be a good color to use on this building? I suppose the natural contrast to blue would be orange, so I'll get sort of a, yeah, here's a Copic I've never used, so I'll open this up and use that. There's the opening. Do I have scissors? Have I read Mouse? Absolutely. Kind of required reading, isn't it? Yeah, Mouse is a fascinating comic, and I think someday I would like to talk about Art Spiegelman and his contributions to comics, because beyond Mouse, which is, of course, a seminal book in comics, I mean, it did win the Pulitzer, I think it's important to talk about, you know, his work on Raw, underground comics, like the magazine Raw. That's something I don't think has been discussed enough in comic book YouTube space. So that's something that's like definitely been in the back of my mind that I need to get to someday. I draw Godzilla vs. Kong, not so much. Have I read Joshua Dysart's Unknown Soldier? I don't know that. It sounds a little familiar, but I definitely have not read it. So now is the short answer. Here we go. Between the Shadow of Two Towers. I haven't read that one. Okay. But I like hearing about new things. Come on. Come on. I've almost got it. Ha-ha! This feels like a big victory for me, folks. Big victory here. Oh, that's very neon. That's going to work quite well. Oh, yeah. Hey, I know. What kind of stuff do you guys collect aside from comics? Figurines, records, what? Vintage clothes? Tell me about something you collect. That's always interesting to me. Marvel Legends. That seems like a lot to collect. Masterpiece style Transformers. Ooh, expensive. Warhammer miniatures. That's a lot of work. Game Boys. Wow. VHS tapes, cassettes, and records. Retro. Garbage Pail Kid cards. Oh my god, I loved those as a kid. Loved Garbage Pail Kids. Dice for tabletop RPGs and music. Nice. McFarlane DC figures. Strong. Records and old Buffalo coins. Wow. Let's see. Art supplies. Yeah, that sounds like my fiance. She collects a lot of that. I can't keep up with everything. I'm sorry, everybody. I see sneakers in there. That's got to be an expensive hobby. It's got to be. Drawings from the preschoolers. Ah, from the preschoolers you teach. That's great. That's awesome. Collect watches. Wow, watches are classy. I wish I had more. I love that there's so much diversity in terms of things that people collect. It's not just like the same stuff. That's really cool. Lego. You know what? I guess technically I collect Lego too, although I don't like intend to keep it all. But yeah, I have a good amount of Lego. A California Raisins figures collection. All right, that's different. I used to have one or two of those when I was really little. I don't know what happened to them though. Didn't keep them. Bunch of people saying some DVDs and Blu-rays. I totally get that. I used to have a lot of VHS tapes when I was younger. What was I trying to think about with that? It was just that one thing that I used to collect back before there was really any internet the way it is now. I would look for backyard wrestling tapes, like kids wrestling in their backyards with fake rings and stuff. Oh, it was so violent and crazy. I was just like, it would blow my mind what people would do for like a lot of risk, not much reward. I don't have any of that anymore. I don't know exactly where it ended up. That was sort of a weird thing that I collected for a while, though. You can collect dust. Am I a fan of Godzilla or Kong? No, not at all. Yeah, I'm a fan of both. Who decided to pit giant radioactive lizard against big monkey? Well, I guess originally it would have been the producers at Toho when they did the third Godzilla movie. That's... Remember when Godzilla was trying to bite Kong's toes? What else are people saying? I'm really letting you guys guide the conversation, aren't I? Instead of just having stories to tell. That's not good. What kind of a host am I? Thank you, Sam. It's very kind of you to say. Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it. I was a colorist for DC in the 90s. Methods and technology have changed a lot. Wow, I can only imagine. Yeah. I've always tried to... I'll just call it dabbling for the sake of talking, but I've always tried to work on every aspect of comics. You know, I've done editing, I've done coloring, I've done, of course, writing and drawing, inking, publishing. It's very important to me that, like, you know, I can just understand at least what goes into it. Not necessarily that I have to be good at each aspect, but it's always been important that I take a shot at learning each piece of how to make comics so that you can sort of respect the work of whoever you're collaborating with. It's been rewarding to learn. Thank you, by the way, Soulstar Sketchin'. That's really kind of you. Thoughts on changes to comics distribution? Yeah, that's an interesting topic for sure. Obviously, shortly after the pandemic, you know, DC made the decision to pull away from Diamond Distribution, who's been pretty much the only game in town for a couple decades almost now, with the goal of going with two different distributors of their own. Now down to one. DC very much looking to shrink their imprint, reduce their costs. Fair enough. Not as many comic stores carry DC Comics now, or at least not as many, because it's not as easy to deal with. That's not a good reason not to order the books if you can sell them. But I don't think DC was surprised. I think that they, you know, were very much intentionally trying to just reduce their expenses there. And then, you know, now Marvel has come up with this huge partnership with Random House, who are, just to be clear, like, they're the big game in town when it comes to distribution. So Marvel has gone very much the opposite direction, saying like, hey, we're partnering with somebody that's going to give us distribution maybe into new channels. And it'll be a lot of work, I suppose, for the comic stores to have to use another distributor. But you know what? That's not like a good reason not to do something. That maybe is a reason to do something. And there used to be many distributors when direct distribution debuted. So I don't think that's a big deal. I think that this is a net very good thing for Marvel. And I wouldn't be surprised to potentially see, you know, them end up in some more mainstream places at some point. Grocery stores? I don't know. Charlie Lawson says, I gotta go to sleep, but I wanted to say thanks for your video talking about your depression. Helps to hear it normalized. Thanks. Thanks, Charlie. If that's something you needed to hear, then I'm glad that I was here to talk about it. It's very serious. Don't feel ashamed. Just don't ignore it if you're dealing with that. Thank you for being here. It means a lot to me. A video on Ross Andrew. Well, that's not a bad idea at all. Maybe I will. All right, you only got to say it once. Thanks for being so respectful to each other beyond just like how you talk to me. I always appreciate that. In general, when I look up in the chat room and I see people talking, it's to give each other recommendations or compliment somebody on an opinion or a point of view, and that's nice to hear. That you know, we don't all have to agree on everything, but if we can all agree that we like good stories, there's a lot that we can learn from each other and a lot that we can respect from each other. And I just want to say that I appreciate seeing such positivity in the chat when I glance up. It means a lot to me. Coloring is fun. Thoughts on comic piracy? Drives me nuts. There's the argument that, like, if somebody's pirating, that they never intended to spend the money on comics. I'm not 100% convinced that's very accurate, though. I really just don't know. You know, I love comics so much, and I want them to do well, and so I get, like, protective of the creators and think of, like, the potential lost sales when people pirate. I don't know. You know, is that accurate, though? Would the average person that pirates just never buy? In which case, theoretically, no one's being hurt. It's hard to decide. It's something I think about a lot, and I don't have a clear answer. I also don't know how you could do a very good job enforcing it. I'm just not an expert in, you know, cybersecurity type measures or anything. I don't know. I don't know. If it's probably just, you know, here to stay. I don't know that there's really much any of us can do about it. Hide a Darth Vader silhouette somewhere. I don't think I have the time to do it tonight. I just don't have a lot of energy, but it's a fun idea. I'm not against it. I like the idea. Pirate out of necessity because I'm on a fixed income. Couldn't you just wait? Like, not read the comic until you can afford it? Would that not work? Neil Gaiman did a great video commenting on piracy. Oh, I'd be curious to see that. I didn't know that, but I'll look into that. That would be interesting to hear somebody's thoughts on it that like has a stake in everything. I'll buy comics for friends rather than point them to the free route websites. It's great. It's great. Hold on. I feel like I heard a buzz from my phone. Let me check. Well, I do agree that comics are very expensive, more than they should be. That's sort of a different issue, though, the economics of it. Are comics a dying medium? No, actually, I think all the numbers point to everything growing pretty robustly these days. Graphic novel sales are way up. Comics in other countries, very, very strong. Japan, definitely stronger than us. Not perfect like it was back in the 90s, but doing well. There's a lot of indications that comics are definitely pretty strong these days. No real concerns there. Comics almost can't go anywhere because just suppose Marvel and DC collapsed, right? For some reason they just couldn't get it together and they collapsed. Well, people are still going to want to tell stories. They can tell stories very easily using comics, and there's very low barrier to entry to, say, posting it online. Now, is that a career path? That's a different question. But I am saying that comics almost can't go anywhere. They're here. They exist as a medium. First time commenter, just wanted to check in and see how you were after hearing you were sick. Excuse me, I misread that. Little better every day. Little better. Not great, but a little better. Thank you. I don't collect comics. I believe I only subscribe because of you, the host. You're very entertaining to listen to and learn from. And that's fine. I'm definitely not here to tell people, you need to buy more comics. Comics. That is not at all my goal. I like to just talk about them. I think that, even if you don't read the comic, that there's something you could potentially still get from my videos on them. And it isn't... It definitely isn't required to read comics, and even if you do, not to read tons of comics, that's fine. I don't care about that. I do care a little about piracy. It disappoints me. I feel like a story is ultimately a luxury in a way. I mean, I think that there's a tremendous benefit to them, but obviously falls lower on the scale of importance than food and clothing and such. So, the idea of stealing them just kind of bothers me. If you were doing it for research purposes, that I could understand. If you're doing it to avoid paying for a comic, that's disappointing. What genre of comic do you prefer? I think ultimately I tend to like crime comics the most. Since you asked, I think I tend to prefer those the most. Do you like the work of Arthur Adams? Yeah, absolutely I do. Arthur Adams is great. Don't know what there's not to like about that. He's special. That would be a fun episode to do. Talk about the work of Art Adams. Yeah, I like that idea a lot. Whoops. A little sloppy here and there. Can sort of feel some weakness in my control, but you know, it is what it is. Yeah, I'm getting a little sloppy. Paul Pope's Batman Year 100. You know, I remember really liking Year 100 when I read it, and I have to say that, like, right now, I'm having trouble kind of remembering it, though. But I like Paul Pope's aesthetic, and I've seen him speak, and he's a really interesting guy, yeah. He made a post recently about how to be a comic book artist, you need to have a lot of stamina. It struck me as very, very good observation. Well, I hope you do make some art, Roshow. Have you heard much about the Netflix Sandman series? No, I really haven't. It's an interesting thing. I think that should be a thing that you could adapt and do well, but I haven't heard a lot about it. Dan Mora? I think I've heard of Dan Mora. Well, I didn't. Yeah. I read the first 2 issues of Department of Truth. Very, very good. Very weird. Cool. Does the idea of a child pirating from a poor household where the parents can't afford comics bother you? Well, maybe a little, actually, just because, again, it isn't a necessity. I don't think that, like, there's levels of problems in the world, and that's pretty low problem. If that got a kid into comics and that kid, created a great piece of artwork from after that, it was worth it, right? So I'm not going to complain about that. It's just what it is. I think that the comic industry could have a lot cheaper comics if piracy wasn't as much of an issue. And I think that would lead to more people reading them. That's my general thought, I guess. Do you read manga? I know you read manga, but do you watch anime? Sometimes, not a lot though. But I also don't watch a lot of TV in general. I mostly, I like plenty of things. We've talked today about Invincible and Falcon and Winter Soldier and stuff. And of course I watch stuff that's not comic book stuff. Barry is a show on HBO I discovered recently that I liked. I don't know, there's all sorts of good shows. Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. There's lots of great TV, but I don't make a lot of time for TV, and therefore I don't watch a lot of anime now. Not a lot. I've not read Trinity by Matt Wagner, but I do like Matt Wagner, and he's definitely somebody I think I should discuss sometime soon. Thinking of doing something very bold here. maybe this completely invalidates the reality of a fight in a city to just sort of have a big impressionistic burst of color here, but just sort of struck me as something fun to do. And since this isn't for anything other than experimenting and growing, why not? I don't know. Seems fun. I'm getting pretty tired, folks. I think I'll probably slow down on the drawing and wrap this up in a little bit. It's just yeah, just tired. But it's been fun. It's been real fun talking to everybody tonight. Appreciate your presence. It means a lot to me. Not quite signing off just this second, but pretty soon. Better to recharge. Exactly. Those are nice lines. Element D's reference. I looked at some pictures from the recent movies to sort of make sure that the versions I was drawing were sort of based on the MonsterVerse movies, but most of this was pretty loose freehand stuff. Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that there were some prequel graphic novels to this. That's definitely interesting to hear and cool. Tuning in at the end. Randy, thank you so much for being here. Randy Stone in the chat room has made a number of comics, and he's done some Kickstarters, some successful Kickstarters. So I was talking earlier about how if I had a pitch that didn't get accepted, I'd give some strong consideration to kickstarting it. And I already asked Randy. I was like, "Hey, you've done this successfully a couple times. You know, would you be willing to potentially help me?" And he said yes. So nice to have a friend that is out there if I need the help. Randy's a really good writer and a good artist. He also had a book, Randy, your book, Eskimo Kisses, was that through Vault or Scout? Go ahead and plug it. It's a really cool story of like the most remote town up in the Northwest, like really remote city, and something attacks them, and it's sort of based on Inuit mythology. Yeah, it is a cool book. Scout. Okay, so Scout Comics published Randy's book Eskimo Kisses. It's really cool. Look it up. It's good. Are you Suggestion an Infotron prequel comic? I don't get it. A comic universe based around Brightburn. That was a dark movie, wasn't it? It was alright. Kind of quick. Let me do something here. I just realized that this isn't centered very well. There. You can see it a little better what I've drawn tonight. No, King Kong's tough, man. Sorry, Nightfall, but King Kong, he's strong. He bows to no one. For the Kong that I did here, this is just art theory stuff. It's kind of pointless, but there are two types of Copic grays. There are warm grays, which are marked with like the W's 1 through 10 or 100, whatever. And then there are cool grays. And I used cool because it just has the slightest bit of sort of a blue. And I felt like, well, Godzilla's getting his atomic breath ready here. That would give things a little bit of a blue tint because he's like right in his face. But if I now took the time to color Kong up here, especially for just a bit of contrast, what I would do is I would use some warm grays. So I'm still giving him gray fur, but it's got the just a little bit of brown. You could argue red, but it's that's what it's got in it. And so now that I've started, I feel like I'm gonna actually color this a bit. But so yeah. Guess I'm gonna color this. So I'm not leaving yet. All of a sudden I decided I wanted to see a little bit more definition to what I'm putting out here. Thought I was done, but I just couldn't stop. So you're stuck with me for a little bit longer, folks. And we'll see what I can do with a little bit of warm gray. Hopefully it still looks like it's all part of the same package. Hope you get well soon, Chris. Thank you, Sigamigs. That's very, very kind. I hope so too. Uh-oh. This one's almost dead. Let's see if I've got any ink on this side. Oh, darn. That stinks. Let's see what other colors I have that are close. We'll go down to warm 3 and see if this one's still alive. A little more. A little more. Should be enough to get done what I need to do here. We shall see. You should definitely do how to draw videos in your style. Well, maybe, but it would obviously take a lot of time, and I think my efforts with my limited amount of time are probably better spent making comic tropes videos and potentially comics at some point. But we'll see. We'll see. Wow, I maybe this is egotistical, but I already think adding a little bit of this color is making this pop a lot more. Yeah, I think I was right to do this. You like to refill or just buy new? I wouldn't say that I use this stuff often enough to know what I prefer yet. That's a good question, and I don't know the answer. Using a very light warm number 2 here. But I think that's okay. It's a dying pen, but that's okay. Whew. Obviously I've become quieter, so obviously I need to hurry up and try to wrap this up for everyone so that you can get some sort of a satisfying conclusion instead of just hearing me trail off. It's not going to be a satisfying way to call it a day. But I kind of like how this is looking with just a little bit of color. What else we got going on here? I love the red part on the Kong panel. Oh, okay. Yeah, I probably would do like some sort of color splash here if I finished this, but I don't think I'm going to finish this, just to be clear. I think what I'm looking for is whether I've got a darker color here. Do you have any idea where you think you got the virus? It's a good question. I'll never know for sure, but I and my fiance have been extremely careful. We haven't seen any friends or family at all for over a year in person. Like, we haven't, no, just no. And that was, and still is, tough. Chrissy works from home, so she's not really getting exposed to anything. And all of our grocery stuff, we did contactless pickup or contactless delivery, always, for the whole last year. We didn't so we didn't go out, we didn't go to any restaurants or bars or movies or stores. We had everything delivered. So that really, by process of elimination, leaves, well, let me take that back slightly. I did go to the comic book store every once in a while. I put on a mask. They only allow 5 people at a time. I thought it was a pretty reasonable risk. I have been to the comic book store. Could I have gotten it there? Maybe. Seems like a stretch, because in addition to, being exposed to the virus, you have to be exposed to a certain amount of viral load, which can take a little while. In other words, you're not going to necessarily... It's very hard to pick the whole thing up by just a quick interaction somewhere. Usually it takes more like 15 minutes or so in an enclosed environment with somebody that's sick. I would not describe any of my interactions at like the comic book store as anything close to that. I was in and out. I knew what I was getting. I picked it up, thanked people, left. I didn't hang out to talk or anything. But I have been working. I sell cars. And we have good social distancing guidelines. But if I had to guess, I think that that's the only realistic place that I was being exposed to other people on any sort of meaningful level. I don't think I got it from any coworkers, but I think I probably had a customer that had it, and I got it from them. I think that that's the only thing that makes sense. I'll never know that. I'm not like throwing it out really as an accusation or anything. But realistically, I think that that's probably where I got it. Wow! Stephen Germain with an incredible super chat of $100 telling me to be well. I will try. That's incredibly generous of you. And I mentioned stuff like this earlier. I will be able to take advantage of that like now, because I will use that to help Chrissy and I get food delivered, because we are both very fatigued and very weak. It's very hard to get anything done right now. And so like that is very, very kind of you and will be appreciated. And I don't say that to like neglect the people that were kind enough to give like, you know, onesies and twosies of some donations too. That was really, really all very generous. I didn't expect any of that tonight, but it means a lot to me, and I appreciate it. I appreciate it, everyone. Thank you. So we're almost done here for tonight. I'm just gonna color his mouth, and I'm trying to think of what colors I want to use, so bear with me a moment. The director of Godzilla King of the Monsters wants to make a Godzilla BC movie and show what Godzilla was doing in ancient times. Okay. I like Godzilla enough that I'd give it a try. Is Chrissy recovering okay? Yes. The short answer is yes. She's you know, not great or anything. She only just got out of the hospital yesterday, but I hope I'm not speaking out of turn. I don't think she had it as bad as I did. She's just very fatigued, but her breathing's pretty good. Heartbeat, a few misfires here and there, so that's, you know, something we're concerned about, but seems to be okay. Seems to be pretty good. All things considered. This is my first live stream video I've watched of your channel. You are insanely awesome. Thank you for the kind words. That means a lot. That's very nice of you. So let's see here. I think I'm going to use a brown for his mouth here. Yeah, I think that works. Whoa, BGN. Miro says, get well soon, Chris. BGN. What country would that be? BGN. First of all, thank you for the super chat. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to figure out what country you're from. I gotta look it up. I don't know what BGN represents. I'm looking it up. Bulgarian Lev. Wow. Well, thank you for... It must be very late where you are, so thank you. Fave Cyberpunk Media. If Blade Runner counts, then Blade Runner. Also, my first. How often do you do this? Well, I wouldn't say that I do live streams with necessarily any particular consistency. It's really more a fact that, like, you know, I've been sick and I really wanted to connect with people and let them know that while I'm not great, I'm recovering and I'm going to be okay. Ultimately, I will be okay. And that was important to me to to let people know. I'm going to do something a little bold here. I'm going to grab a pink and give Kong's iris this bit of pink to sort of imply a little bit of bloodshot anger. I think it makes him a little scarier, and I think that that's kind of something that this needed. Now I'm just sort of looking for a light brown to do his iris. Looks like this will be the best one I have, I guess. I don't have tons of colors. Oh, it's okay, got it. It's morning. It's not too bad for you. That's good to hear. And now what's something really light? I think I will go to the cool grays and just give a little bit of highlight on a couple of these teeth. Yeah, I think that's plenty. So, out of what I've accomplished, if anything, tonight, I decided to do a sort of a 3-panel layout here. Kong, the confrontation, and then I would have had Kong throwing sort of an uppercut here with Godzilla sort of rocked back. Did I sort of break the 180 rule here? Kind of. This is a fine establishing shot. This, I wish I'd done a little more for the background, potentially, but is fine for conveying the story. But then to have a shot of Godzilla punched, I think I'm swapping it too much from having him face left to having him face right. That's not great storytelling there. I didn't think that through very carefully when I was sketching this out and just having fun, which maybe I would have if I had approached it as an actual page for publication. Maybe I would have thought that through a little bit more. I have to admit I kind of approached this pretty fast and loose when I decided to do this with all of you tonight. But how could I address that with what we've got here? Well, possibly an inset panel here of some sort to help with the flow of the characters pivoting. They would have to be a pretty small, maybe silhouette with the background. Maybe I could show just a straight on shot to sort of give some scale if I'm going to do that. I could have a little inset panel here of almost stick figures with, the skyscrapers. Could look pretty cool. And then sort of just a Godzilla, a King Kong fist, a hairy fist right about here, sort of showing him get rocked. I think that could probably help with the storytelling there. If I didn't do that, I would honestly say that this is kind of poor storytelling to go from this panel to this. This is too much of a flip in the shot. Wow, super generous super chat here from Nick. Feel really bad you and your fiance were hit so hard. We have been. Thank you. So wanted to help a bit more. Maybe we can do something Vampirella, John Carter, or Red Sonja related together and help you more. Drop me a line. Well, folks, that's pretty amazing, isn't it? That's Nick, who I'm sorry, Nick, I don't know your exact title at Dynamite, but obviously a professional who helps run Dynamite. And Dynamite's been doing a lot of good stuff lately. Red Sonja has been impressive. I recently got the Marvel Red Sonja #1 because it's an interesting character, and they've been publishing some great stuff. by Cullen Bunn. He's written some good stuff over at Dynamite. Obviously, I made an episode about the history of Vampirella a while back, and that's a big property for Dynamite. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I know you didn't give a super chat for a plug, but it seems only polite to comment on that. That's really, really generous of you. You know, we're both working. You know, we're able to pay our bills, but it definitely you feel the tiniest pinch when you have to spend extra money that you don't normally do, which would be, in this case, getting delivery. We never do delivery. We always cook for ourselves. It's healthier. It's cheaper. But our energy is, you know, it's both of us are just struggling to clean the cat's litter boxes and feed them and stuff. That's like a big accomplishment for us. He's the president at Dynamite. Excuse me. I thought he was, but I wasn't 100% sure if it was called like something more like, you know, editor-in-chief or publisher, or I don't know. That means a lot to me, though. Raking in the cash. Yeah, so maybe it's a good time to stop for that reason too, because I sincerely don't want to be a beggar. But I will say that the super chats tonight are actually something that I can take advantage of towards improving our health, specifically because delivery and insurance is good. There were copays. I didn't want to talk about it earlier, but I can actually, you know, take advantage of what you guys have done for me tonight and help with some of those copays, which some of them were pretty expensive. The healthcare system here, I definitely have a lot to say about it, but this isn't the forum for it. All I can say is getting sick should not be something that can like ruin somebody, because what you'll learn when you're close to being as sick as I got, and I got really sick, folks. Just I said it earlier, but I was within a day of dying. I definitely was, and it's terrifying to me that I got that close. And you will pay anything at that point for your care. Anything. You can't think about it, like, 'cause you'll have to figure it out. So fortunately I do have insurance, and Chrissy does too, thank God. But some of the copays we still have to hit. It's not crazy like some stories, but it's several $100. And so like tonight, like, you guys have helped me. We can like have some delivery, and we can pay our insurance copays, and those are things we could afford, but this does make it more comfortable, and that means something to me. I know I'm very serious right now, and I feel emotional and stuff, but it's really important to me to thank people properly. And look, if you didn't like do a super chat tonight, that's fine. I don't need it. Being here helps the channel grow, and I love talking comics. So all the comments and the likes and the subscribes, it all helps me a lot. But with this much money, I just felt like I needed to speak to it and say that this helps remove any stress that I may have had otherwise. And with how tired I am, to reduce stress is amazing. It really means a lot. So everybody out there has helped a lot. I've had some incredibly generous super chats. We can still see ones from Stephen Germain and Nick Barucci. Oh my God, Stephen. I didn't expect anything like this tonight. I really didn't. And there's a part of me, I will say, first of all, thank you. I'm grateful, Stephen. But there's a part of me now that feels guilty and like I shouldn't do these live streams, because I sincerely am not trying to just take money. I'm not. I'm grateful, but I don't need it. I'll be okay. And I don't know what else to say. I just want to try to be thankful, and I hope that I hope you know that it means a lot to me. That's about all I can say. Everybody's been incredibly kind tonight. You guys are great. I have a lot of ideas for Comic Tropes episodes. So as soon as I can gather the energy, I will be editing and recording more episodes. I have an idea for a comic, and I've decided it's time to stop sitting on it. It's time to hire an artist and get it done, because it's scary to think that, like, being gone and not having stuff left behind. I don't have kids. It's not going to happen for me. So the stuff I leave behind will be, some of the smaller comics that I've made and the videos that I've made. And I've got a lot of ideas for stories, and I've sort of put them on the back burner to focus on the necessities. And that's good. But I think it's something that's, being this close to death has really made me passionate about getting ready to hire an artist or two, depending on how many ideas I can properly develop. But I think that I will have I think that, like, it's very realistic to think that before the end of this year that I could have a comic out there for all of you to read. And maybe that's me putting a little bit my money where my mouth is, because I obviously critique or examine comics in a deep level all the time. But let's see if I actually really know those lessons. Can I actually deliver a meaningful, enjoyable story that people get something out of? I think it's a good challenge, and it's something that I really want to do. It will be an interesting line to sort of be on, though, too, because can you both tell a story and critique or comment on them? I think you can. I think that there's a line there. Anyway, we'll see. I'm going to sign off now. You guys have been amazing tonight. I'm going to bed. I'm exhausted, but this was definitely worth doing. And you guys all mean a lot to me. Like, you really do. I got a lot of nice comments on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, and like a lot. And it really helped. It was not nothing. It meant something that people out there cared whether I was going to survive or not. This is just something that's really affected me in a big way because of how sick I got. So I may still be talking about it for a little while, but not in a formal Comic Tropes episode. That hopefully within, like, maybe a little more than a week, I can get the next episode out. That would mean a lot to me. So that's what I'm going to do. Thank you for listening to me, especially as I ramble about so much stuff that isn't comics. You guys are amazing. I'm going to take off, and till I see you next time, I want you to keep reading comics. Take care.